It's happening more and more. Retirees are leaving America and retiring in other countries. Would you do it? Have you even thought about it? Coming up on Your Money Matters, 5 reasons why you might want to consider retiring somewhere other than America. Plus, we'll take a glance at the market and talk about your safe money IRA options. Coming up on this edition of Your Money Matters.
The Presley Group presents Your Money Matters, hosted by Christy Smith and Matt Kennedy. Christy is the owner and founder of the Presley Group. She is a best-selling author, certified estate planner, and certified health reform specialist. For over 18 years, she's been helping folks just like you plan for a successful retirement. Matt Kennedy won numerous awards during his 25 years as a talk show host and is a full-time agent with the Presley Group. He is also a certified estate planner, a certified health reform specialist, and has been an agent with the Presley Group for over 6 years. Now, Your Money Matters on News Radio 1150 WJBO and WJBO.com.
So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll be back again. Oh, babe, I hate to go. There's so many.
Good morning and welcome to Your Money Matters, brought to you by the Presley Group. I'm Christy Smith, joined with my co-host this morning, Matt Kennedy.
Well, good morning. Would you do it? Would you move away to a foreign country? I know you wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. But we're going to have a guest on the show in a little bit who's written an article for Market Watch, 5 really good reasons to consider retiring somewhere else other than America. Somebody's probably staring at the radio right now saying, what? Retire somewhere else other than America? But do you know, Christy, the number of boomers who are retiring in other countries, primarily because of the low cost of living, it's doubled in the last 10 years?
Well, yeah, I do believe that, Matt, but I will tell you that Rick and I've traveled quite a bit, and there's really no place like home. So ultimately, we always want to come back home, and this is where we want to retire and spend our golden years.
Well, we're going to hear from Quentin Fortell a little bit later in the show. He writes for MarketWatch.com and USA Today. He's got 5 reasons why you should consider retiring outside of America. Okay, here's reason number 1 why you don't. Tiger football.
I agree with that.
Number 2, Saints football. Anyway, we'll get to that in a moment. Well, last week, Christy, we were here, we were talking on the show, and the stock market was just plunging. What a difference a week makes, right? This week, the market has done very good. It's bounced back. It's back in the black for the year. What a difference 1 week makes, huh?
I think that volatility is definitely the name of the game, Matt. And, right now it's just... it's a time that we have to be very cautious and really, what I told my husband the other night is that we just have to really tread carefully right now. It's so uncertain.
Very uncertain. Michael Sincere is who we interviewed last week. He writes for MarketWatch.com, and I believe his articles also appear in Forbes magazine and at Forbes.com. And Michael Sincere last week talked about some of the reasons behind why some economists fear a 20% meltdown's on the way. But when we have a week like we've had this last week, people look at Michael Sincere and they say, he's just overexcited. He's overly pessimistic. So what does he do? He writes another article. This one's entitled 4 Signs That the Bull Market is on Its Last Legs. Here it is. By the way, I was on vacation last week. I saw a bear.
Really?
I didn't tell you about that. We were on vacation, and I was out playing a round of golf. This is up north now in Canada. Saw a baby cub black bear and his mama. And the people were playing golf. We said, whatever you do, don't get between the bear and the mama, the cub and the mama. So I hit my golf shot. Guess where my golf shot went?
In between.
How did you know that? Because you've seen me play golf. In between bear and mama cub. So I just waited until Mama Cub and Bear Cub moved on. But that was exciting to see a bear on the golf course.
Rick and I have gone to the Smoky Mountains many times, and we always go through the national park looking for bears, and we never see a bear.
Couldn't believe it. Alyssa wasn't playing golf, my wife, and I came back and said, look at my bear pictures. The little cub was right by me. She was all upset. But what you don't want to see is a bear market. However, here are 4 signs, according to Michael Sincere, signs of caution, I think. Number 1, he said many investors got real excited because the stock market went up 185 points last Friday. Not this past Friday, but the week before. He says, but if you look deeper, he says the spike really wasn't nearly that strong. He says because volume is so low. He said be very careful judging the Dow right now or the S&P or the market as a whole on a week or one day. Be very careful of that.
And Matt, he also says that big rallies are really common as the market's going to transition from a bull to a bear market.
It's the number one question we're asked right now from those who are clients or those of you who call interested in an appointment. How much longer is the rally going to last? Some people see it going into next year. Some people say, oh, after the elections, it'll be bad. Truth is, no one knows. But point number 2 that Michael Sincere makes in his article, 4 signs that this bull is on its last legs. He talks about how the market breaks key technical levels. Now, this gets real geeky because some people are technicalists. Christy, they love to look at all the candlestick charts and all of that. But what he says is that he believes the line in the sand is the 200-day moving average of the Dow Jones, which is 16,354. He said, had the Dow Jones not rallied Friday a week ago, it would have gone below that technical level, and that could have become the beginning of a really big pullback. But Friday's rally, last Friday, pulled it back up above that. And he says, watch 1634. If the Dow quickly goes back under that, it could signal more pain down the road.
Matt, one of the things that he also talks about is the stock prices that are moving higher. He says fewer and fewer stock prices are moving to a 52-week high, and the stocks that are really making those new highs are often smaller companies.
Right, and not your big dividend boys, for example. He says that's the key indicator. That's that New York tick that he talked about last week. If you missed the interview, it's on our website at safemoneyplan.net. And then last but not least, he talks about one of his reasons he fears the bull may be about to run out is he says sentiment indicators reflect complacency. And I'll paraphrase. Basically, he thinks people are getting back to a 2007 mentality. The market's gone up 5 years. 4 of the last 5 have been incredible because 2012 was only so-so. And people get complacent. You and I have another word for it. People get greedy.
Yeah, I think greedy is a great word.
And it happens because we sit down with people, and you and I both in the last couple of weeks have sat with people and said, listen, the market is so high and you're so close to retiring. Why don't you take some of your proverbial poker chips off the table and move it into one of our safe money IRAs or safe money after-tax accounts where you don't have to worry about the market taking it away? And what do people say? I don't know. It's been mighty good the last 5 years, and greed kicks in.
Matt, he's also talking about how the market has been climbing without a significant correction, and the more dangerous it becomes because of this. He says we've already gone 2 years without a 10% correction, and he said that's extremely unusual. I think that when we go back and read articles like this or even interview him, the main thing that we need to take away from it is that we need to start looking at where we're at now. We can all agree that the market's done well over the last year or even 2 years. And what we have to decide is when is the right time to cash in? When's the right time to take some of those chips off the table? And I'll tell you, we have some great plans available, some safe IRAs that we may be able to help you do that with, especially if you're getting close to retirement. I don't know about you, Matt, but in the last week, I've met with 4 people that are going to retire within the next year. And all of them recognized that they needed to make changes within their current 401k plans right now.
Yeah, and if you're over age 59 and a half, listen very carefully for a moment. If you're 59 and a half or older and still working, most companies that are in this area, not every company, but most companies, most employers, they're going to let you do what the IRS calls an in-service distribution. And all that means is you look at your 401k, and if you're fully vested, you can step into it and you can pull money out of that 401k and move it without having to pay taxes because it's a transfer. No taxes, no fees to transfer the money. But the money is transferred from the 401k where you may be at risk, or maybe you're so afraid you're in stable value and you're not making anything. We transfer it into one of our safe money IRA plans. So it's still tax deferred, but now you've got safety. If the market does go down, if the bull is on its last legs and the rug gets pulled out from under us this year or next, you'll never take a market loss. And the best part is you share in gains when the market's good.
But not only that, Matt, our plans will even take it a step further, and some of them that are really earmarked for income, because most people that are taking money out of their 401k, they're planning on using that money as an income in the future. Some of these plans that we work with will even ensure that that income value will grow even if the market goes down.
That's right.
So now is a perfect time to look at your options. You know, I'm hearing it more and more. We are seeing people become more concerned right now. And this kind of reminds me of the time when we first got on the radio. It was really before the last depression.
Yeah, it was late 2007, early 2008. That's when I met you.
We would read the Harry Dent articles on the radio, and Harry Dent was saying, hey, a great crash is coming ahead, but yet people didn't really pay attention to it. And then when it happened, people would come into our office. Let's face it, there weren't as many safe money experts on the radio as there are now. It's funny how they're out there in droves now. But the thing is that when people would come sit with us, we would hear time and time again, I did not see this coming. I didn't hear my advisor telling me that there were warning signs. I didn't, I just wasn't paying attention. I had blinders on. You don't have to keep doing that. And really, the closer you get to retirement, you can't afford to keep doing that. You have to consider what your options are and learn how you can do things differently. And I will tell you that while there are many other advisors on the radio, we are not all alike. And I'll tell you that, and I don't say this bragging, but it is just the facts. We are preferred advisors, and we have access to plans that many other advisors on the radio do not have.
We have so many more options. And that's one thing I want to really stress. You hear us talk about our safe money plans. Other people talk about safe money plans, but other people have not been in this business as long as Christy, and they have not reached the level of success, I'm bragging on you, see, that you've reached, Christy. So insurance companies, those great rock solid insurance companies that we rely on to protect our clients' money, grow it safely, create income, etc., they're reaching out to us, and they're classifying you and I as preferred elite agents. That means we're in the top 1% in the nation. And it means we have access to plans that the other person you're talking to may not have access to. We have many more options. So before you make a decision, do call us. It's a free, no obligation consultation to find out about a safe money IRA or a safe money after-tax plan that can grow your money without ever putting it at risk. And will create income if that's what you need. Call us at 791-5773. 791-5773. It's a free call and a free consultation.
And it really could make a difference of thousands and thousands of dollars in your income as you retire.
This is Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. Still to come in just a few moments, we're going to hear from Quentin Fortell. I had a chance to talk to him earlier in the week. 5 reasons why you might want to consider retiring somewhere other than America. It's pretty intriguing stuff he's got. We'll get to that a little later in the show. But Christy, I found this article and this chart. I haven't even shown this to you. This is the first time you're seeing it. It is mind-boggling. It was August 13th at marketwatch.com. One chart shows just how badly the average investor lags the true stock market indexes. This comes to us from Richard Bernstein Advisors. This guy spent years and years and years at Merrill Lynch. He broke off. He formed his own advisory agency out west. But what he did is he looked back at just droves and droves of mutual fund accounts. Now, he's not counting 401ks where people are adding money. He's looking at your average mom and pop investor out there, and he's looking at how their portfolio has compared has done when compared to, say, the true S&P 500. Christy, would you like to take a guess before you look at the chart? Don't look. Take a guess what the average mom and pop investor in mutual funds has averaged over the last 20 years.
I have to say it's probably a low average, Matt. I would think probably 6%.
Wow.
I'm being very generous.
Christy, are you
My
ready?
gut was going to tell me 3%.
Okay, you should have gone with your gut.
Yeah.
Because it's around 2.5% a year. Now, I know you're thinking out there the same thing I thought when I read the article. Oh, come on. In the last 20 years, the market's... Oh, that's right. There was 2000 and 2008 in there. But I got to thinking, but wait a second. This can't be right. But then I forgot about one very important thing. I forgot that what happens when people see the market tanking is they panic. They pull out, they go to cash. And the article says, Mom and Pop, we love you, but you have a great tendency to pull out when the market goes down. And guess what? Then you tiptoe and buy at the worst possible time. You buy at the top of the market. Whereas if you had just sat and stayed in the market, you would have averaged closer to 7%, Christy. But emotion takes over. And the same emotion that you feel now, greed, which makes you want to stay in with all your money, is the same emotion that makes you pull out, fear, when the market tanks. I'll argue that if you go back over 20 years, and if someone had opened one of our safe money plans, fixed indexed annuities, that they would have done a whole lot better than 2.5%. You know why? Because you're not constantly buying and selling. When the market tanks, you can take the emotion out of it. Our clients don't lose money when the market goes down. And when the market's good, you share in gains. I was stunned, Christy. 2.5%.
I agree with him, and I have to say the reason why I agree with him is because I really witnessed this in my own family. You know, when my dad retired, he put his money in a brokerage account with a large brokerage firm here in Baton Rouge, and you know, he had a great retirement. He knew he had enough money to live on the rest of his life. But what he wasn't planning on is years like 2000.
Right, when he retired, right?
And yeah, he retired right before that. And he lost so much of his portfolio. And I'll tell you that his theory of people, mom and pops are going to pull out is true. Because what happened with my dad was when he got to the point where he couldn't sleep anymore, he pulled out. And then you never really recover from that. And I'll tell you, there's even people coming into the office lately that have asked me, should they get back in the market? I had a gentleman yesterday who came in the office, told me he pulled out about 3 years ago, and he hasn't gone back. And he's actually considering whether or not he should go back now. And this is exactly what happens. You know, we start to see these accounts go down in value. We start to panic. Our heart starts to beat quicker. You know, we do let emotion take action, and we get out, okay? And we sit on the sidelines. But what happens when the market is rallying is we hear from our friends and our family how, oh, we've made so much money, we've done well, you know. Can I quote Ricky? Blah, 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 blah. That's what Ricky would say, my husband. Yeah. And then they start to think, is now the time, is now when we should go back in. And going back in at a high is absolutely one of the worst things that you can do. But I will tell you that using our safe money strategies, if we go back and we look at actual performance, we can see that, you know, if we tie our performance strictly to the S&P 500 over the last 15 years, we're going to outperform those S&P stocks.
Oh, I don't mind giving you a number because I did my homework long before I came to work with you. The average plan that we use, or the plans that we use, have averaged on the cash side about 5.27%.
Well, that's pretty sound for a safe environment.
It's a whole lot better than 2.5%. As a matter of fact, he points out in this article that, again, the average mom and pop has only averaged a little over 2% because we tend to buy at the wrong time and sell at the wrong time, plus all the fees that you incur when you do that. But, Christy, he points out only 2 other asset classes have done worse. The Japanese market and the Asian emerging markets. That's the only 2 that have... he said you would have been better off buying short-term T-bills than you would have been being in the market without all the ups and the downs. So my point is, understand that the way our fixed indexed annuities, our safe money strategies works is simple. Your money goes in. Oftentimes you'll get an upfront bonus for putting your money with the company. If the market tanks, you don't lose a dime because the insurance company has a large enough portfolio of safe investments they can underwrite your investment. But in the years that the market's good, where you're getting double-digit gains in the stock market, you will share in those gains. And here's the best part of all. Each year, your gains lock in. That way, if you have 2 really good years followed by a horrible year, you don't go back to where you started. The gains you made are locked in, and that's so powerful.
Matt, I was working with a lady earlier in the week that has been my client since 2008. And on her statement, it showed what her actual average earnings each year has been since she opened her account. Do you know her average earnings each year was 12.12%?
Wow. Well, of course, now she became your client right before the stock market melted down. I mean, you talked about your dad. My parents, I started working with you in early 2008. My parents became our clients in July of 2009. So my dad and mom, they went through the market downturn, and they were down 35% before my dad said, "That's it, I'm getting out." Finally, he called and said, "We'd like to meet with Christy." And I'm like, Dad, I work here. I know, but you haven't been there that long. I want to meet with Christy.
I remember meeting with them.
Yeah. And so Mom and Dad, they've had very similar performance, somewhere around 10.5% per year. Now, we're not promising you that return. I always tell people, Christy, at the Presley Group, it's first about protection. It's secondly about potential. First, it's most important when the market's at a high to protect yourself, especially if you're close to retirement. But the potential is there. So learn your options. I think in America, these are strong words, Christy, but I think we've been brainwashed to believe either I have to be at risk in the market or I have to have no risk and no return. That is, I have to be in CDs or money market or stable value. No, that's not true. You can share in market gains when it's good, have protection when you hold one of these safe money IRAs or safe money after-tax accounts. To learn more, just give us a call, 791-5773. That's 791-5773. We know some of you are listening on the weekend, on a Sunday. The office isn't open on Sunday, so give us a call, leave us a message. We'll call you back first thing Monday morning. But now's the time, in case Michael Sincere is right and the bull is on its last legs, now's the time to call us and talk about safe money.
Not only do we have to be concerned about where the market's going, but we also have to be concerned about during retirement, how is our money going to last if expenses keep going up? I was looking at an article earlier this week, Matt, on Market Watch, and it's talking about health insurance. I want to talk about the health insurance premiums for the Affordable Health Care Act. Do you realize that nationwide, the average increase in the affordable health care plans, Obamacare, is going to be about 8%. Now, that's not our state. That is an average. But I went in and looked at our state. Now, our state number is even higher than that.
Yeah, I think Louisiana's average is supposed to be around 10% hike for Obamacare coverage next year. It's going up.
And Matt, think about this. This is only a 1-year increase. These plans have only been in effect 1 year. Can we think about how much we're going to see in increases in the future? It's more important now than ever that we really look at our retirement money and protect it so that we don't outlive it when we're in retirement.
When we come back after a short break, is it time to consider retiring in another country? I asked my wife, would she even consider it? And she just looked at me and then busted out laughing. She goes, "You're kidding, right?" So I told her, well, you have to listen to the radio show this weekend because we're going to talk to a guy who's talking about 5 reasons to retire somewhere other than America. We're not doing that, I know, but you might want to do it. So we'll hear from Quentin Fortell when we come back in just a moment. In the meantime, give us a call. It's always a free, no obligation consultation at 791-5773. 5773. Oh, you can also log on to safemoneyplan.net. Learn all about us. Contact us through the website simply by logging on to safemoneyplan.net. We're back in just a moment on Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group.
This is Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group on News Radio 1150 WJBO and WJBO.com. To schedule your no-obligation consultation, call us at 791-5773. That's 791-5773. Or visit online at safemoneyplan.net.
Welcome back. Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. I'm Matt Kennedy, along with Christy Smith, the owner, founder, and president of the Presley Group. Last week, I had the chance to sit down with a writer from MarketWatch.com, or I should say earlier in the week. Quentin Fortell's his name, and he has a brand new article out, 5 reasons you might want to consider retiring and living somewhere else other than in the United States. Christy, do you know of anyone that you know of that's done that?
No, I don't.
I've been meeting with some people that are considering actually relocating to Honduras, but their situation's a little different. The husband has dual citizenship. So that kind of makes sense. But I can't imagine, not knowing a country, not having dual citizenship, and just packing up, heading there, and setting up shop in a foreign country. But more and more Americans are doing it. As a matter of fact, the percentage of Americans who are retiring to foreign countries has doubled in the last 10 years. So I got Quentin on the phone, the gentleman who wrote the article, and we talked about people retiring abroad. Quentin, let's start with number 1. What are some reasons people are looking at moving elsewhere?
Well, the cost of living, for a start, despite historically low inflation, the cost of living in the U.S. is still rising, and actually property taxes are a huge issue for some people. In New York State, for example, the mean property tax is over $5,000 a year, over $7,000 a year in New Jersey. Even the lowest, like Louisiana actually is one of the lowest in the country, and that's still $823 per year.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to a couple who moved to Ecuador. Their property tax is $53 a year.
$53 a year, not a month, a year.
No, a year. Their electricity bill is $24 a month. Their internet is $28 a month. That includes landline. Their monthly living expenses for most of them and their friends, including rent, is between $1,500 and $1,800 a month.
Okay, and I know places like, for example, in the article, you cite San Diego. Beautiful weather, gorgeous golf courses, but who the heck can afford to live there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They would love to live there, but they have a beautiful climate where they live. This couple in Ecuador, and they live in a small town, and they're very happy. They have a very high quality of life. I mean, they would love to live in San Diego if they could afford it.
Let's talk a little bit about politics, though. I want to skip to number 3, where you write, escape from political drama in Washington. That sounds good, but what about the political drama in, say, Ecuador or Honduras or Belize?
Right, yeah. I mean, you really have to look at not only the political stability of any country you move to, but also the crime rate as well, see if it's different in different parts of the country, small town versus cities. But yes, one of the reasons, actually this came from a financial advisor of all people. He said that the battleground between the political and ideological forces of right and left in the U.S. can be exhausting for everybody else. Now, obviously this was brought home by the shutdown in the federal government for 16 days last October. But people do move because they don't like either the, partisan politics, or they don't like who's in the White House for the next 4 or 8 years. So that's something to consider for some people.
Okay, the article says 5 reasons why more and more Americans are retiring abroad, reasons not to retire in America. More baby boomers are finding greener and cheaper pastures overseas. Number 1, property taxes are lower. Number 2, you're escaping some of America's political drama. Number 3, technology has made it so much easier to stay in touch and see the grandkids, thanks to FaceTime and Skype, right?
Right, absolutely. And that's probably one reason why the number of people who are retiring overseas has doubled over the last 10 years. Obviously, the other reason is because there are more baby boomers retiring. But yes, more people are retiring overseas. And one reason is because technology has made it much easier to stay in touch. Now, it's obviously no substitute for playing ball with your grandkids in the backyard, but you can use Skype, FaceTime, Viber. I mean, it's an amazing time to choose where you want to live based on your own needs, rather than having to be around family members. Because, I mean, for example, I live in New York. Most of my family are in Ireland, but I still get to keep in touch with them on a daily or even weekly basis through video.
You know, you mentioned Ecuador earlier. In doing this article and writing this article, Quentin, did you do some research to find out what are the hotspot foreign places boomers are retiring?
Well, I looked at some. Obviously, what I did was I looked at some in terms of where your dollars go farther from home. American dollars do have more buying power in countries, obviously, with a favorable exchange rate, and not great for the Eurozone. Unfortunately, the dollar will only get you about 75 euro cents in return. However, the Czech Republic, for example, is not part of the Eurozone and has a favorable exchange rate. Others, I spoke to a finance guy who deals with international money exchanges, and he also recommended Costa Rica, Argentina, Mexico, or other countries with a good exchange rate, and also, as importantly, a lower cost of living, because there's no point in getting a better exchange rate if you're going to be paying more money for property and for living expenses. Also, interestingly, the U.S.-Australian dollar rate has greatly improved for Americans over the last year or so, and that's obviously for those who are truly adventurous and have thought about down under.
5 reasons not to retire in the U.S., the article at marketwatch.com. The number of retirees who are retiring overseas has more than doubled in 10 years. Would you do it? Are you thinking about it? Now, last but not least, Quentin, we talk about property taxes are often lower overseas. Communications are easy. You can escape political drama in America. And you just mentioned dollars going much further the farther you are away from home. But last but not least, concerns over health care. I think in a recent survey, 60% of baby boomers said that they were absolutely terrified to describe their concerns over health care cost after retirement. And you've actually run some numbers on how much cheaper health care can be abroad.
Right, yes. So there's a global survey actually by the International Federation of Health Plans, and that looks at a range of different medical procedures. And I just chose one that might be, but there are many more, and there's a link to it on my story on MarketWatch. But I chose knee replacement because it might be something that some people, baby boomers, might be considering, especially older baby boomers. More than $25,000 in the U.S. versus $12,500 in the Netherlands, $8,100 in Spain, and just $6,000 in Argentina. Now, obviously, those who are 65 and over can benefit from Medicare, but even retirees covered by Medicare or other insurance will carry some of the burden in the form of out-of-pocket expenses. And yes, 60% of boomers used the word terrified to describe their concerns over healthcare costs after retirement, and that was a survey by Nationwide Financial of Americans who are over 50. So some of those people may want to retire before they're 65, and they're afraid that what might happen if they get sick and they're faced with these huge out-of-pocket costs.
So let's take your earlier example, Quentin. Someone retires, they move to Ecuador. I hate to ask an ignorant question here, but do they have any problem getting their Social Security check? Does the fact that they're expats, does that create any problem with their retirement benefits from the U.S. government?
Well, it shouldn't, no. But, there's another reason that I should mention why, which is that boomers abroad actually do pay American income taxes. The U.S. is one of the few countries on the planet that taxes its citizens on income no matter where in the world it's earned. So the couple that I spoke to, they pay their U.S. taxes every year, as do all U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live. So if you live in a country that has zero income taxes, believe it or not, some do, that is not going to make any difference to you if you're an American citizen. Like the Cayman Islands has 0%, St. Kitts and Nevis has 0%. So many of the countries have lower income taxes than the U.S., but that will not make a difference if you move overseas, if you retire overseas. And also, with that in mind, getting back to your question, your Social Security payments should not be a problem.
Quentin's article is 5 Reasons to Retire Somewhere Other Than the USA. His article is available at marketwatch.com. This is Your Money Matters, presented by the Presley Group. You know, Christy, we've done this show today, and we just got busy and haven't talked about the tragic news that came out over the last week of Robin Williams passing. I have to tell you, I was floored. And I started thinking about all the movies and that we've watched with Robin Williams, and it's dozens.
You know, Matt, it really was a tragedy. When I saw it, it made me sad.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is you think about how many times he actually made you laugh.
Oh.
And then to read the news of his death really made us sad. You know, now I will tell you that it didn't take long that I started reading on the internet that Robin Williams really took care of his family.
His estate planning was
His estate
good.
planning was very, very thought out and detailed. And I think next week we should spend some time on that because, you know, a lot of times people think that estate planning is only for the wealthy. And in fact, in Louisiana, I think estate planning's for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. The great actor Philip Seymour Hoffman, who passed away some months ago, his estate plan was awful. We talked about that. His estate plan, well, he didn't have one. And the government's going to eat him alive in taxes. Robin Williams did have a better plan. But so sad. Good Morning Vietnam, he was phenomenal in that movie. I thought our kids loved Jumanji and then RV that he did recently. Just great movies, but such a loss and such a tragedy. I will tell you, too, what else is sad, Christy, is several articles came out because Robin Williams was 63 years of age, the classic baby boomer age. And there was an article earlier this week in USA Today that suicides among baby boomers are really high, percentage-wise higher than at any other time in history. And I hate to say it, but the article at USA Today said what's taken the toll is the labor market. So many people lost so much money in 2008. They had to keep on working. Now they've been laid off. And in other parts of the country, it's difficult for an older person to find a job. And that's why they think suicide rates are growing among baby boomers. Very sad.
Well, and I even heard, Matt, that people were speculating about his financial situation, thinking that maybe he was, you know, in a bad place because his home, one of his mansions is for sale.
Yeah.
And in fact, I guess none of us really know, exactly what it is. But what we do know is that there's been other things come out that would lead us to believe it wasn't his financial situation. And so, you know, there are going to be, in my opinion, many more situations like this with just the average consumer. And that's because we're not as prepared.
Yeah.
You know, and it devastates you. Financial devastation is hard to deal with. And I'll tell you, I actually had a client, and I hate to say this on the radio because, you know, I don't want her to get upset if she happens to hear us talk about this, but I recently had a client who had a parent that did commit suicide, and it was very hard for her to deal with.
At the very least, you have to have a will. Now, a will's not going to solve all of your problems, but I'm amazed, Christy, at the number of people who sit down with us, meet with us one-on-one to talk about our safe money strategies, and we always ask about their estate plan. You and I are certified estate planners. We're not lawyers, but we at least know the things you need to do to get your affairs in order. And I'm amazed at the number of 50 and early 60-year-olds who I'll say, now, do you have a will? No, we just never have gotten around to it. Well, what about an end-of-life directive or a living will? Nah, we talked about it, but we never did it. I think Robin Williams' death really should be a wake-up call for baby boomers to prepare. That's really the moral of the story for me is be prepared because you never know what life is going to throw at you.
And I think a lot of times people don't prepare simply because they don't want to face the fact that one day they're going to die or one day they may get sick. They put off making those decisions, kind of like putting off your retirement checkup. They don't want to hear if the news is bad, and so they put it off. But really, not only do you need to have your estate planning taken care of, but you also need to get regular retirement checkups.
I think that's a great phrase, a retirement checkup. And I'll tell you why, because I think people, Christy, they dread going to buy a car.
I do.
Think about it. Oh, I know I need the car, but I dread doing it. They dread going through certain medical procedures. And I think a lot of you listening right now dread picking up the phone and calling someone to talk about your finances. And I think part of that's because you've had bad experiences. You've gone somewhere and some guy with a tie on too tight and his hair all greased back is trying to get you to sign the dotted line on the first get-together. Or worse yet, Christy, they talk in all their fancy professional language about price-to-earnings ratios and the Monte Carlo models and all these candlestick charts. And they talk over your head because they're trying to impress you with how smart they are. When was the last time you sat down with somebody who shut their mouth and listened? Listened to you. And I think that's what makes us different. Let me rephrase that. I know that's what makes us different. We listen. It's not about selling you something. It's about listening to what is your retirement dream.
Now, all you have to do is pick up the phone and schedule your complimentary visit to come in and sit down and talk with us. And let's talk about your goals and your dreams so that we can help create that retirement plan that's going to give you that peace of mind where you don't have to worry about it in retirement. Also, you may be wondering, do you have enough money to retire on? There's lots of questions that you may have. Give our office a call, schedule an appointment. We'd love to meet with you one-on-one. There is no, there's no bartering. There's no pulling your arms.
Yeah.
We really simply want to help. And we are different, Matt. We are quite different. There's many choices out there. We know you have other choices. But again, you won't know until you experience the Presley Group difference. You need to give us a call, come in and meet with us, and let us show you where we are different.
One of the big concerns, of course, for many of you is, you said it, will I have enough retirement income? Also, many of you are probably close to Social Security age, and we can run a Social Security optimizer report. Two things we can do for you that are going to help right off the bat. A retirement income analyzer and a Social Security optimization report to make sure you get the most out of Social Security and to make sure that you cover the essential needs of living. Give us a call, 791-5773. We're in Denham Springs, so it's a local call, 225-791-5773. The website is safemoneyplan.net, safemoneyplan.net. Okay, I'm going to throw a curveball at you. I didn't even tell you I was going to ask you about this. But in the closing moments of the show here, I'd like to ask you a yes or no question, okay? Christy? Mm-hmm. A story came out this week that a little-known law in Louisiana had suddenly popped up. The law that was changed prohibits anyone 70 years of age or older from running for political office for the justice of the peace or constable. So once you reach 70, if you're holding that office, you've got to get out of the office. And if you're over age 70 or older, you're not allowed to run for justice of the peace or constable. What do you think about that law? Because personally, I hate it.
Well, I think Governor Edward Edwards would disagree with it.
Yeah, now see, he's running for Congress. And what is he, 84? He's allowed to run. I understand putting maybe an age limit for, say, an airplane pilot, maybe. And they do have that limit, right? Is it 65?
I think
so.
But
for someone to run for a political office as justice of the peace, they're marrying people and signing documents. I know plenty of 70-year-olds who are as sharp as a tack. We have 70-year-old clients who could probably outrun and out-arm wrestle me.
Absolutely. I don't agree with it, Matt. I think it's
either.
a terrible thing to do.
Yeah. I just was curious what you thought, because we're going to talk more and more in the coming weeks about not only finances, but the stories in life that affect you and your life, and get your opinion on those. And If you have an opinion on this, feel free to email us. You can go to safemoneyplan.net. You can email us there. And let's don't forget about Ask Christy. We don't talk about that enough. When you go to safemoneyplan.net, this picture, well photoshopped, by the way, of
You don't
Christy.
have to tell them my secrets, Matt.
I know. This picture of Christy pops up, and it just says, Ask Christy. So if you have a question or a comment about this age situation, we'd love to hear it. We'll only put your first name on the air. We'll never, violate your privacy and give out your whole name. But it's at Ask Christy, and again, the website is safemoneyplan.net. Who knows what the market holds? It's been a good week this week. We're finally back in the black on the markets. I think it's safe to say, Christy, we're just going to kind of float along. This is my guess. But I think the real key to watch for continues to be earnings, but I also think a real key is the November elections. The midterm elections, I think, will have a big impact on the stock market because some say that if Republicans win, it could mean a tightening of the easy money, which might actually hurt Wall Street. Who knows?
Well, I think that when the money supply does slow down, we are definitely going to see some fluctuation in the stock market. But, Matt, I just want to say that right now is so critical that if you are on the verge of retirement, right now is the time to look at your plan. Or do you even have a plan?
do you have one?
Give us a call and schedule an appointment to come in and meet with us. We're not like the rest. You do have options, and we would love to spend some time with you. Our office number is 791-5773.
When we come back next week, we'll talk some more about the passing of Robin Williams. Robin Williams, as sad and tragic as his passing is, he really did a lot of things right in preparing his estate. He has set his family up properly. We'll talk about what he did that was right and how you, as you prepare your estate, can sort of learn some lessons from this tragic passing. For Christy Smith, I'm Matt Kennedy. You all have a wonderful weekend. Our number is 7915773. Our website is safemoneyplan.net.